Does anyone know any good books on decentering men? Well, someone who looks a lot like me hauled my ass to a storage unit, went through all my little boxes, got all of my journals from the last 6 to 7 years of doing the work of decentering men, and picked out every single book that I read and reflected on along the way. Now, right now, I'm going to share a handful of just really high impact books that I recommend everybody read. But if you want the full list, the full 45 book list, you can find it public setting. You don't even need to make an account in the clickable place on my Patreon. But let's get into it. My first recommendation is for folks who like to do shit on hard mode. We're going for Abolish the Family and Full Surrogacy Now by Sophie Lewis. These books will make you mad. These books will radicalize you, and they will do it in a very, very short amount of pages. These books take on the role that women play as burden bearers, pack mules, and essentially assets for the nuclear family under capitalism. This is just a mind-blowing set of books to read either back to back or together at the same time if you're that kind of weirdo. Now, it's impossible to talk about decentering men without talking about motherhood. So the next book that I recommend everybody read is called Touched Out. Touched Out uses cultural critique, theory, and memoir to essentially talk about the concept of consent, control, childbearing, and child rearing in women. It's amazing. Just a little spoiler, a lot of the books on this list have to do with family and motherhood because that is such a central idea and wifehood to the ways that women end up with their lives centered around men and ultimately destroyed by men. Next up, we have Hags, the demonization of middle-aged women. Now, a lot of these books will get into the concept of desirability and beauty politics, and for good reason. Part of decentering men is decentering our sort of innate desire to receive validation through appearance, through desirability, and the attractiveness market, as it were. This book is really cool because it kind of feels like you're talking with an old friend, but it really nails home the way that misogyny intersects with ageism and how that plays out on women's bodies, on women's psyches, and the way that our society and culture treat women as they age. Next up, we have Women in Power by Mary Beard. This is a great place to start if you're just entering the world of understanding misogyny, feminism, and patriarchy. Mary Beard is just incredibly adept at not only just tracing back the roots and the history of misogyny, but drawing explicitly clear lines to all the degrees and ways that it oppresses and functions in the lives, in the psyches of women today. Whether it's in our ability to speak and describe our experiences, the misogyny that plays out in our language, in our school districts, in our interpersonal relationships, and beyond. It is just an incredible read. I can't recommend it enough. And it also speaks really specifically to women's association to power, not just power within yourself, but the concept of women in power in general, which I think right now with everything that's just happened at this election would be something that would be really high value for a lot of people to understand on a deeper level. I'm trying to cover as many categories as possible while walking you through this short list. So the next one that we have up is called Erotic Defiance, and it's actually a womanist text. Womanism is the intersection of feminism and Black womanhood as it refers to misogynoir, which is the combination of misogyny and anti-Blackness. Erotic Defiance is a revelation. It speaks to the way that the Western world fears desire, that women being in touch with their own wants, needs, desires, and autonomy and agency is a direct threat to patriarchy, Western colonialism, and capitalism. It talks about the sovereignty of body, of self, and of source, of creative source, and of erotic source. It is a life-changing read. There's so many books in this collection that touch on rage. But the one I want to recommend here, quick and dirty, is Fed Up. This book speaks to the concept of emotional labor and mental load and the disproportional weight that women carry. The invisible labor and emotional shock absorption that women take on, whether it's in their families, in their workplaces, or in the world at large. And it speaks very frankly to the impact this has on our bodies, our time, our ambitions, and our prospects. If you want to get really, really mad, feel really, really validated, and then get a lot of just high value, nourishing solution finding, this is awesome. And then to bring it back to community, I have to recommend here and now Belonging. Belonging, Remembering Ourselves Home is a book that I return to at least once a year. This book speaks in just such a profound way to the alienation, the loneliness, the lack of self-worth that makes the concept of building a life outside of men or outside of validation or outside of any sort of quick grab instant gratification that we can get, it so beautifully and tenderly articulates a clear pathway, not to this self-helpy type of actualization or girl bossiness, but to a real sense of belonging to oneself and to one's community. It's a balm if there ever was one. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information and a lot of books. If you want the full list, or if you want to talk to me more about it, I've set the full list on public for now. It would be great to have more members on my Patreon, if I'm very honest. You don't have to pay for it. You can just be a member. I really enjoy having conversations there. I really use it kind of like my social media. I just started it a couple days ago, and I'm already having a really great time. There's about 47 people there now. There's chats and threads open. There's videos, podcasts being shared, and all of this is available without you having to pay a dime. So if you're into that kind of thing, if you're into that kind of space, I would really love to have you. And thank you so much. I had a really great time putting this together today. It took a good couple hours, and it was really honestly incredible to walk through the process that I had with so many versions of myself, and to know that all of you are in different stages of that too. If you're underneath my previous video and you're thinking, dreaming, feeling, grieving along these lines, I'm right there with you, and I have been as well all this time. So I'm happy that you're here now.